I call to order the March 3rd, 2025 Adrian City Commission meeting. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a little bit of an unusual circumstance tonight. So I would like to, I'm going to ask for a motion to appoint Michelle Dewey as the temporary clerk for the evening.
Support.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So Michelle, you will be able to take over now and do roll call.
Mayor Heath,
Present?
Commissioner Banking,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss.
Present.
At this time, we will have public comment for all items that are on the agenda. We will begin inside the city chambers first, and when we have exhausted all public comment in the chambers, we will then open it up to the Zoom participants. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and place of residence. And also just to remind you that it is public comment, and we will not be commenting back at this time, just listening to your comments. Hearing no public comment on items on the agenda inside the city chambers, we will now open it up to the Zoom participants. Hearing no public comment, we will move on to the work study session. And the first item on the work study session is the administrator search discussion. So I don't know if, everybody I know was going to do their homework and take a look at the different search firms and, and maybe make some notes or come up with some thoughts. I don't know if somebody wants to go first on that. I can. Do you want me to go? All right. So, a lot of what I noticed is that a lot of them offered many of the same things, some in a different way, but some of the crucial things that we've asked for, like stakeholder meetings, helping figure out the job description, like maybe there's figuring out the job description, but like also doing a search that's not just barely doing a search, like just putting it on a few things and letting it go. Many of them were in depth, saying that they will, reach out to the passive applicants, sorry. That, and they have databases and they can, really reach out. And I really liked that. I will say that I really liked Pivot, but I had a concern that all of the municipalities they worked with or villages were very, very small. They are not experienced with anything our size. Not that we're very large, but that it was just a little bit of a red flag, a little concerning for me. I felt really good. I'm kind of caught with a couple of them. I really thought that, one that maybe we should really look at bringing in to see if this is the group we want to use is the YEO and NEO. I liked everything. I liked the city size of the groups they've worked with, how many that they've worked with, their experience, that they have former city administrators in their staff. I liked a lot of that. I really also, just because it's a little different, I don't know how to take it, but I really liked Double Hall, and I know it's gotten a lot of really great recommendations. It's a little different because they do a lot of team building. They do a lot of things that aren't just searching for your administrator or searching for your city, staff that you're looking for. Because what they did with Tecumseh was like team building and working with that commission. But I liked that they had that town size that was a lot more similar to us and with all of what they've done. I do think that's important. I gotta admit, I loved MMLs, but the price I did not love. I really struggled with how much more they were than everybody else's quotes. Michigan Municipal League. I know that they have that strong database and all of that, but it just concerned me at how high of that price tag it was, and what would it be that much more in depth than some of these other groups, and would it be as personalized as maybe some of these other groups? Those are just some of my initial thoughts from my thousands of Post-it notes, from my extensive research into all these companies. So I don't know who wants to go. Yes.
I reached out to every principal that provided a proposal to us, and I talked with them about their services. One thing I was most impressed with was that Double Hall sat through our presentation virtually. So they saw the presentation that and our discussion that we had at our last meeting. And one thing that I thought was also nice was, of all the people that I spoke to, they were the only one that followed up in email following my conversation. And they said, so based on our conversation, here are some additional services that we also could provide the commission going through this, specific to developing the evaluation tool and doing strategic planning, if that was something that the commission wanted to do with them. MML, I did contact them because there is a specific search person that's assigned to us. So what I did was I contacted everyone, and then I also emailed 2 of the mayors from every city that they listed. And I got a great response from MML from a mayor, but it wasn't for our search consultant. So it was for one of their other search consultants. So again, it's kind of like this widespread, and talked to a guy who's seems good, but got a real glowing response back for somebody else who's not assigned to us. So that was, I guess, just kind of a concern that if you're listing references, it would be the references for the consultant that you're going to be assigned to. I will say Double Hall, as the mayor spoke, stood out. Dan from Tecumseh recommended them himself through the work that he's done with them. And they really have, I think, it's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. What's the right size firm associated with where we need to be? And they seem to be a good middle-sized firm with multiple staff that can be responsive to our needs, and could be something, long-term as we look at administrator evaluation, as we look at strategic planning, where they have a wealth of experience in addition to team building, those sort of things that we could use later. So I like them.
Can I add something to that really quick?
Sure.
The one thing I forgot to bring up on Double Hall as well is I really liked also that they will attend and facilitate a workshop with the commission to
Yes.
walk through and refine our executive search process. I thought, that's why I highlighted it. I really liked that as well.
Yeah, and then also both of them, along with Yo and Yo, where you also made recommendation, does kind of that guided 6-month check-in between the commission and the new administrator. And I think that guided piece can be really helpful. So I also did like kind of the size of Yo and Yo. They might not have experience in Lenawee County as much, but they did have in Washtenaw County, and then similar smaller size, less than Ann Arbor, work that they did as well. The one that we didn't talk about was Vitrino Consulting. And I guess kind of rating 1 through 3, and top of my head, the top 3 would be Double Hall, Yo and Yo. And then I had a good conversation with the consultant from Vitrino. But interestingly enough was of all the mayors that I emailed, the 2 from Vitrino mailed back. Where the other ones was just kind of hit and miss, and mostly miss in terms of responses from mayors or phone calls back. But lots of positive praise from the city of Ferndale and the work that they've done hiring multiple department heads and city administrator from there. So I guess they're kind of that mayoral recommendation kind of pushes them into 3rd place if there was talk about doing 3 or instead of 2.
They were my 3rd.
Oh, one other point, I did ask all of them, just kind of for scheduling sake, if they were available. So essentially, everyone's available to come and present on March 17th, 24th, or 31st. If we, so we could set a meeting if we wanted to do a special meeting. The 4th or the 5th Monday of the month, or if we think it would work for our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Bob, I had a question about your conversation with Double Hall. In looking through their paperwork, they've given us a profile of 2 or 3 different consultants. Did they give you any indication which one would be assigned to our project?
Nate, the president and founder, is the person that I spoke to, and he said that he would be listed as the principal for this project.
Okay, thank you.
I had also asked Heather Lasky, our HR director, if she felt okay giving her opinion as well, because I know she has, reached out and talked to them. And I said, don't give it to me till I already have mine formulated. But I did ask, and she said she was comfortable. So if you would just maybe give your thoughts as well. Thank you,
Yeah.
Heather.
Yeah, you're welcome. So based on the feedback that I received from my colleagues that I reached out to in other cities, and also the proposals and the cost associated with each of these, if I had to choose, I would pick between Yo and Yo or Double Hall, which is consistent with what the 2 of you are saying. If you'd like, I can share some of the feedback that I received from other communities as well.
Yes, please.
So many of the communities that I spoke to, have only used the MML. Obviously, they're well-known in Michigan, and they are well-known for their municipal work. So, but with that said, most had a very positive experience with MML. The thing for me, I would be in agreement with what you were saying, that they are cost prohibitive. So, that's my only concern with MML, but very, very positive response about MML and their services. Several of my colleagues commented that MGT, which is the former GovHR, that they handle recruiting for several different industries all across the US. And some of them perceived that to be positive from an experience standpoint, but then others saw that as a negative because their focus is not solely governmental jobs. So just something to keep in mind, or it really just depends on your perspective with that. There was definitely a consensus among my colleagues that perhaps some of the smaller companies, and in particular, there was a lot of mention of Pivot Group, Double Hall, and Yo and Yo, that they give a more personalized experience, and that their recruiters are more easily reachable and involved during the process. So I thought that was really valuable feedback and something definitely to consider. Also, much of the feedback that I received seems to suggest that, and I thought this was important, that some of the smaller firms are not necessarily equipped to do background checks, extensive background checks. So I wanted to let you all know that that is something that we have the capability to do in-house. So a lot of these firms will let you kind of pick and choose what services that you employ them for. So if, you know, either in addition to what they're doing, we could do our own background checks in-house, or we could just handle that ourselves completely. And then basically the takeaway that I got from other communities is that any of these firms would be adequate. But there seems to be a consensus that some of the smaller groups would be better suited to our community. To me, it's really valuable feedback to learn that some smaller firms can get such a positive response, especially with having a lower price tag. So that was really important. All of these companies, as Bob mentioned, I also got a response from all of them. They would be willing to and eager to get in front of you and you know, give their presentations. So they are all willing to do that. And I'm more than happy to facilitate that if you want, or if you want to handle that yourselves, that's fine. So the highest praise firms for sure were Double Hall, Yo and Yo, and the Pivot Group. So that's what I'm receiving from my colleagues.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we have a consensus then, and we probably just need to decide, do we want to bring in all three of them or just the two? And I'm okay with all three, but if it sounds like from Heather and her, from, you know, the HR perspective who deals in this every day, maybe we start with the two.
With Double Hall and
Yeah, Double Hall and Yo and Yo.
And then date wise, I guess what do we want that to look like? And will that fit within our next regularly scheduled meeting, or do we look at one of the 2 remaining Mondays in the month?
I think a special meeting is in order for that, so that we can candidly ask questions without other worries on the agenda.
And I was even thinking, you know, just since there is a 5th in this month, that's not a bad idea, just to do it on March 31st.
We
Oh,
also
I'm
have to
sorry.
keep in mind, though, that we're probably going to have a budget meeting for one of those, right? Does anyone, I mean, we've oftentimes in the past had a
It's
separate
April.
budget meeting.
I think that's April, but I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I think it's important for us to make sure that we get our ducks in a row before we have a meeting with them. So that we have an understanding of what we are looking for, what some of the bullet points that we have that we are talking about as a group or as a community. I think that's important too.
So I agree with that. I think I shared that same sentiment last time, and the question is, I guess, do we write down the concerns that we have and bring them to a meeting where the presentations are happening so that we can ask?
Oh.
But, and do they do some of the stakeholder research that we want?
Sure, I don't think we need to have a consensus of what our concerns are. I think we as a group representing the community, we can bring our bullet points, and they might overlap, they might be different. And I think that's important to have those ready to go.
But, and I think that's the process, that we hire the firm
Mhm.
and then they work with us to identify those bullet points from the commission, to
That's right.
identify the bullet points from all the various stakeholder groups that we want to identify: employees, department heads, DDA,
That's very true.
business, citizens, residents, those sort of things. And I think both of those, from what in the conversations I have, both of those fully do that at a pre-meeting before the whole process even starts. So before the job posting, before they create the document, and they really want to hear, and there's various levels of how much they interview commission members, whether that's one-on-one, whether it's as a full group, those sort of things.
I think to Doug's point though, because we had talked about this, and we talked about it last time too, I would, before we have that meeting, or including in that meeting, I would like to have input from city staff. That goes, that we can consider as we listen to them, talk about what they're offering. So I would like to have some input from city staff. We talked about, a survey, whatever. I would like input from city staff to some of the things that they need. When we look at these and see that they offer leadership or, other strategic plan, et cetera. I want input from city staff so I can say, what does that look like with you? And does that fit what our staff needs, or what are their weaknesses? What are their strengths, et cetera? I want to know if that is in line with what makes them the best city staff that we have, that is out there. You know what I mean? So, I would like to have some input from city staff going into researching these, agencies as well.
I mean, is that something that Vince could just, send
think, I mean, it
out?
doesn't- I
Like,
think
what
it
do you
could be-
want in the
It
city?
doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be, anonymous. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be, but
It could be raw information.
Mhm.
It could just be compiled information from
Yep.
all of the department heads. We don't need names. We don't need who's asking what. It's information that we need that will help us to drive this forward.
And I know we want to do it right, but I still feel like we should move quickly.
Yeah.
So I think we should offer them the opportunity to come in 2 weeks and do pre-meeting presentations. That would be my suggestion.
If we could get the information from department heads coming in for that or just before that meeting, that'd be great. I would be just coming back, so I'll be happy to do that.
Do you think it's doable to get that information before that we can get it and have that information from
I
city
would,
staff before we have them?
I would pose the 24th, I guess.
I was kind
I
of
would
leaning
think
to the
24th.
That'd
Yeah.
be better for me. That'd be great.
Because I think it'll give him enough time, because I know that Vince is out right now and will be returning, but by the time he would be able to get that out and distribute it as well, I'm thinking maybe the 24th.
And I guess my question is, if we're going to ask this of city employees, why would we not ask everyone?
I think that's fair.
I do want to ask everyone, I do want to do that, but it looks, in reading this material, it looks like these agencies do a lot of that. I guess I'm more looking at what these agencies have to offer, like, Tecumseh did a lot with Double Hall, right? With leadership classes, like, training their staff, I guess. So in picking the agency, I would like to pick one that will go into our community and ask for stakeholder information, but I also want to pick the one that best employees. So getting input from them to choose that agency is what I'm looking for, if that makes sense. I definitely want stakeholder information, but I'm looking at the best, who's gonna offer the best training for these things that I'd love to hear some strengths from our city staff, but here's what we think our weaknesses are. And and then we pick the agency that best serves.
But I think that is carefully formulated in a question. So we need to make sure that we ask that right question to get what you both are saying out of there, instead of what do you want in the next search firm? So I guess between Heather and Vince watching the video, they can kind of pull from this conversation that there's some maybe more specific employee types of conversation. So outside of a search firm, if the city were to hire a consultant, what additional services could they provide department heads and employees so that city staff could do a better job? Something along that line instead of, something.
And as we get this survey out to the workers, I think it's important to ask what has worked in the past, what works for you through your history here, what hasn't worked so well, the good and, the good and the not so good. I think it's not just, what are you worried about? I think it's about everything.
Are you okay with that, Heather?
Yeah, we can absolutely put together a survey. We just need to know who you want it to go to, whether you want it to reach all employees or just department head level people.
I prefer all employees.
Okay.
I mean, I don't expect to
I
get
mean,
there.
whatever, anybody else.
I think so, because I think sometimes department heads might have a different thought than the other employees. That's why.
So one thing I just want to clarify, because I feel like I'm maybe hearing two different things. Are you looking for information about what they would want to see in a search firm, or information about what employees would want to see from, their process in terms of how they're choosing their candidates?
I guess I'm looking at what are the strengths of the city staff employees? What are the weaknesses? You know, what do they feel like they need help with? So some of these agencies that are offering more than just administrator search.
And this will help us to find the person we are looking.
They have much more to offer. And, when we talked last week, we talked about that very thing. Many of these agencies have much more to offer. And, I think, Bob, you did make the point that, picking one of these agencies that we work well with, to offer those extras, it will be a good thing moving forward. So that's where my mindset is, I guess. How do we connect with a strong agency that will help and continue to help our city staff be the best that they can be?
Got it.
Does that then help with Heather when she calls to make the appointments, to say, we want the search process overview, and then what other add-ons can be added from your organization for us? Does that
You
include?
notice Yo and Yo doesn't have a specific price. They have a base-ish, and then they don't add all the add-ons
Yeah.
too. So there may be things that we have this information, and I think Double Hall gave us a lot more information than maybe Yo and Yo based on just that search, but they may all have more add-ons that.
And that was one thing that the written follow-up to me from Double Hall was, they just hired a new member on their team that's a workplace culture specialist. And then they had, I think it was 12 modules of different workplace culture components that they do training with and outreach on. So that again, I thought was growing with the times.
I agree.
When they come in and do their presentation, I think it's important, at least from my perspective. I want to meet the consultant that's going to be assigned to the project. Like them to have that introduction.
Yeah, if we could get that, Heather, that'd be great when we do the scheduling. And like I said, the people I talked to, those dates were open. So that was, I think, a big bonus for us.
If it's on the 24th, that would be a special meeting. What time were you thinking?
6.
Okay.
6? Yes, 6.
Okay.
And do we see like 20-minute presentation target from them and suggested, I guess I'm just thinking what Heather should say when they say, okay, well, how long?
Yes, because you're going to want a lot of time for the
Questions.
and the dialogue back and forth. So I mean, it still could go quite lengthy. So I think if you limit their presentation part, so it's not so much just listening, but actually us asking those questions and having those conversations. I think that sounds good.
I don't want to limit their time. If
No,
they're gonna come
I
and
wouldn't,
present
this is
something,
important.
No, I mean, but still, like, how, do you want one slide or do you want 20?
I don't want to limit their time. I want them to give us their proposal, what they do well, how they think they can do it. If we say we're going to give you 20 minutes, and that means they're going to edit or have to cut down or brief things that they won't thoroughly go through, I don't see that as valuable. I think that if we're going to hire a firm, we want to know what they're going to do, no matter if it takes them 20 minutes, 40 minutes, or an hour. And then we can ask questions. I mean, this is an important decision. It's more than minutes. This is a valuable
Sure.
process.
I agree. I agree with Matt that this is an important decision and we should take as much time as necessary to pick the right firm and in the end, the right administrator candidate.
Heather, I want to thank you for getting our homework together for us. And it's going to
You
be
bet.
nice to have you along on this trip with us.
Thanks for including me.
So you're good with reaching out to them then, Heather?
Yeah, the only question I have also is, do you envision sharing with the folks that are coming in to do a presentation, the feedback from our employees so they can speak to those topics and what strengths they offer?
That's why I wanted to wait till the 24th, because I think that was the goal, is to get it. So we get it, they get it, we get it before we get to that meeting. So my
that's
my
plenty of
thought
time.
is yes. Everybody else? Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, great.
Do we want to, are we good? All right.
So
Moving on to the next part of our work study session, we're going to have Jay Marks come up. He was asked to present. He's doing a DDA Main Street and an Adrian Mall update and maybe other things. I'm not really sure, but
there's other.
yes, he's going to give us just an update so that we are aware and so that the public is aware. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Good evening. Michelle's pulling up some slides so we can go through those. So as the mayor said, we'll start with downtown Adrian, Main Street DDA. So if on the next slide, you'll see that the DDA has two goals this year. And probably those two goals will be the same going forward. Increase the number of visitors to downtown and increase the frequency of those visits. As you're aware, last year we went through the development plan and the tax increment financing plan. We've also spent some time with a new strategic plan for downtown that was part of those projects. We have over 40 projects that we think we can accomplish over the next 3 to 5 years in the downtown. So that's part of that, but all of those must do these two things. They must increase the number of visitors and increase the frequency of those visits. So on the next slide, you'll see in 2023, we had 235,800 unique visitors to downtown. That was in a total of 1.5 visits into our downtown. The way that we got that information is this came from National Main Street, and it's in some of the information I gave you that gives you more details on it. But we did geofencing of our downtown. So anytime a GPS device came into the downtown, it was registered. They have to spend at least 7 minutes in the downtown. So it's not driving through, you're actually stopping, parking, getting out of your vehicle kind of thing. Of those visitors, you can see there that 20% of them, 47,000, were from the 49221. So we couldn't tell specifically if they were in the Adrian city limits, but they're in the 49221. But that makes up almost 50% of the total visits. So we're getting a lot of visitors coming from outside. They're just not coming frequently. And really, we're kind of a victim of our own success. If you look at First Fridays, we're really good with First Fridays, but we've trained people to just come downtown on First Fridays. So as you'll see, as we go through some of the things that are being discussed tonight, that we'll talk about how we do how we're going to transform past that and what those projects look like. So on the next page, you'll see the development plan. So really the things that we're looking at are making places, promoting community, connecting organizations, fostering business, and enhancing circulation. These were the 5 principles that came out of the strategic planning that we did, and those projects will follow along the line with those. If you look at here with National Main Street is the founding organization that we work with. They're out of the National Historic Trust. And then that goes through the coordinating programs at the state. So Michigan Main Street is our coordinating program. There are 23 cities in Michigan that are Main Street cities. Blissfield, Saline, Coldwater are the closest ones that are here. And we follow the 4-point approach. So we have 4 committees through that 4-point approach was economic vitality, design, organization, and promotion. Want to talk a little bit about the project. So Town Square, this one we've been working on. We're probably about 60% through the design. We're really refining that right now. The Gene Christopher property will be the one, the last area. So this is kind of looking at the back of the property. So along what was formerly Maiden Lane. You'll see those buildings there. Those are micro retail shops. They'll be about 300 to 400 square feet for startup businesses, part of a larger entrepreneurial ecosystem. And we've had input from the DDA, city staff, stakeholders really looking at this project. On the next slide, you'll see that's what one of the micro retail shops will look like. So this is part of a much larger entrepreneurial ecosystem that we're going to be developing, and we happen to be getting a branding or a service from Michigan Main Street this year. The technical service is entrepreneurial ecosystem. So it really helps us help not only new businesses, but existing businesses grow, develop, look at what they're doing and really help them grow their system. They will do everything from looking at marketing, accounting systems, how we interact with the businesses. It'll give us some insight as to what we're missing when we're having those conversations. So that service is going to be, probably one of the most important things we do to help this program. As we go down, further down the square, you'll see there's a little window that peeks through, and that looks into the parking lot right there on Church or on Winter Street. And we'll have a space for food trucks in that design as well. The next one will be looking back from Main Street towards Winter Street. And one of the key features of this is there'll actually be a patio on the roof of those micro retail shops there. So you could get a Dara beverage, some food from a food truck or a local business, sit up there throughout the day, or, while events are going on, to enjoy kind of that patio, that above the hustle and bustle look. This gives you an end view of that, and those are actually designed to be roll-up doors, so they can roll them up and actually move their stuff into the space, so expanding that retail space, but also give you a view into the business, giving that larger kind of open area feel into it. This is what the town square will be. So this is where we took down 116, 118, and 120, giving you that band shell type of feel. Probably have some fireplaces in there. We're looking at those designs. Green space, trees, providing a space for some lawn games. We see this programming taking place here probably 4 to 5 days a week, where the DDA will have something going on in this space, whether it's live music, it could be like an art kind of, I'll use paint and pour kind of thing where somebody's demonstrating and you do the painting along with it. Movie nights, tailgate parties, all kinds of things that could happen in this space. Next picture is going to show you what it would look like at nighttime. So you can see kind of those knee walls that could be sat on, sharing the space, somebody playing cornhole in that area. We, farther back in the band shell there, we will have some kind of video monitor in there. So you can play, have movie nights or have, tailgate parties, like you show a football game or something like that in there. And as I said, programming will probably be one of the key parts of this, and the DDA is committed to programming this space for all the things that you see there. One thing I want to point out this year is we've gone from just doing one event a month to now we're doing one event a week, and it's different events. So we're doing First Fridays. The next week we do Shop and Stroll Saturdays. In March, we're going to do a Third Thursday event, which is just promoting live music downtown. And then you get to the last weekend, and this is a brand new idea from us, where we're going to engage our service businesses. We're calling it What's Happening Wednesdays, where we want the service businesses just to be open from 5 to 8 on Wednesday evening. So think salons, think realtors, tattoo parlors, anybody that's a service, we'd like them to be open to engage the community and let them know what type of services we have downtown. People think it's just retail and that's all that they can attach to. And I want them to know that there's 140 businesses in our DDA. And we want them to be familiar with them and use their services locally. The last thing I want to talk about on this slide, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see where it says Event Z. That is a software app that we have licensed for this year, and it is a scavenger hunt app. The unique thing about this app is you can create QR codes, videos, you can do quizzes, You can do GPS location. So what we've done over the last two events that we've had, and you'll see it again on First Friday and then again the following Saturday, we create an event with all the businesses that want to participate. You download the app and you play the game, and we give away prizes. We give away downtown dollars for the winning score. But the first thing it does is it requires you to go into that business to find the GPS point. And then after you find that, then you ask questions about that business. What do they serve? What do they, what's something special about that business? So we're now getting customers into the business, and it allows them to really learn about things that they didn't know. And if they're able to score a high score, they win some downtown dollars, and it helps our businesses in that way as well. So we're very excited about this. We see many ways that we can utilize this app, communicating with the college students, bringing them downtown, engaging them. We could see some different things where we have art walks or history walks, different things that'll allow us to do that. Next thing I want to talk about are private projects that are taking place downtown. So the Park House, the former Harriman building, going through the revitalization process right now. They're at 50% complete in this project. They hope to be done late summer, early fall. The second and third floor will have apartments, have 12 apartments, 36 beds in there. Primarily, it looks like you're going to be appealing to college students in those spaces from the way the designs are. And then on the ground floor, they're going to have a food restaurant option, some light retail, and a classroom. I believe they're engaging with one of the colleges to bring some classroom space into that lower level. The reason it's called the Park House, that was the former AB Park department store. It's opened in the late 1800s until the Harrimans took over right around 1974. So long history in our community with that building. So it's nice to see it being revitalized. They are maintaining the historic features of that through, they're also getting some tax credits for doing that. The next one is Grand River Brewing. They're going into the Seasons or Studio South. They are engaged to bring Grand River Brewing to Adrian. Right now, this will be the 5th location. They're currently working with the MEDC for some funding with this, and they're just waiting for their letter of intent from the MEDC to move forward, but their full intent to move forward this summer, and depending, potentially done late fall with this project. The next one you'll see, these are the steel lofts, the former Joanne Steel building, AMK Properties, who purchased the Strongback building, and the former Cotton Brewing has purchased this building. I just met with one of their consultants on Friday. They're looking through ways they can create their capital stack. They were hoping to start later this year. It may get pushed back a little bit depending on what that capital stack looks like, but they're hoping to move forward with this. This will have 8 apartments on the 2nd and 3rd floor, and then 5 commercial spaces on the lower level, 2 of which are occupied right now. So Disaster Craft and Isaac Sneed have 2 of those retail spots, and they'll make 3 more out of the remaining building. Near and dear to the mayor's heart, Library Square. We've identified a place where we can put a playground in a Library Square. We think we got about half the money for that. We're looking for a partner to help us fundraise the remaining part of that money. This will be an accessible playground. The next slide will show you another version of what that may look like. And so we're very excited about this. We'll be talking to some of the local service groups to help finalize that funding. And as soon as we can do that, we'll start construction. They said it'd take about 6 weeks on the construction for that. So we think we can get that done this year as well.
Jay?
Yes.
Not everyone may know where Library Square is. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, so right behind the Adrian Public Library, there's a green area back there, about 2,500 square feet of green space, and that's what we're proposing to put in that spot.
I just want you to know, I went and presented at an elementary school like last week, and they had hard questions for me. And one of them is, why is there nothing for kids to do in downtown? And I got to tell them, you will have a playground soon, and you should have heard the cheers come from that associate. It's not just me hearing that from adults. I'm hearing it from the kids. So that the kids were very enthusiastic, and that was one of their questions.
Excellent. Yeah, that's it, right? We want to be able to engage all levels of families into our downtown. And I think back to when my daughters were younger, if I had a place where I could take them to get some education at the library, then go to the playground and then take them down home and put them down for a nap, that would be ideal. You know? So I think that it's just a great added bonus to our downtown. On the next page, you'll see where we talk about our impact report. So this is about the downtown. I've given each of you a copy. They'll be coming on the Downtown Adrian website later on this week, where it really just talks about what we've done in downtown, what the public's looking for, some information on drive times and what population and what salaries and incomes look like in that area, and how much is taking place in our community. Next thing, the Winter Street Bike Loop. As many of you know, last week we had a public meeting, an open house talking about the design. The design's at 60% for this project. And for those of you that don't know, we are working with MDOT to build a bike loop that will go from the Kiwanis Trail on Maple up to Winter Street, down Winter Street to Maumee, and then Maumee back down to the trail. At the same time, we're also going to be narrowing down Winter Street to make it like a downtown street, putting the downtown lights there, trees, making it a walkable and much calmer street. One of the other things is Front Street, where Front Street will be narrowed down right there by the courthouse. So instead of that really wide wasted space of, I don't know, 2 or 3 lanes there, putting 2 lanes there, putting parking on both sides of the street where we're able to give the courthouse, you know, if you got to go to the old courthouse or even to the annex, it's difficult to find parking there sometimes. So it'll be right on street, very accessible to the building there. And then the next slide shows us what that will look like on Winter Street with the protected bike loop that will take you through that area. As I said, we're about 60% done with those construction drawings. They hope to be at 90% sometime in April and May. There'll be another open house at that point. Bids will go out in September, and then the letting for those bids or the awarding of those bids will take place in November, with construction on this in 2026.
Was there any feedback from the meeting that guided the future and remaining work?
Yeah, there was a lot of, there were probably 20 to 25 people that showed up for it. Overwhelmingly positive, very excited about it. A couple questions about lane widths and different things. So we're taking that back to the architects to see what they can do from that point. Next thing I want to talk about are some of the private projects in the city. The Adrian Mall. So as you may or may not know, if we go back many, many years, let's start from the beginning. So the mall was condemned in June of 2020. Then in August of 2022, there was a plan unit development that was approved for the mall. They have since they've separated one parcel for the church, and they've completed that upgrade for it. And the church is in there and they're doing fine. There was an attempt to sell one of the parcels, and there was some legal matters with that parcel, so they haven't been successful with that parcel. They're trying to relocate that individual to another parcel in the mall area. But they've stalled. And so in January of this year, community development went out and placed a notice, a demolition notice to the mall. They went out and investigated, deemed it was unsafe. The cost to replace it was more than 100% of the value of the structure, and they placed it on the entire mall. So basically from Ollie's to Dunham's, and then the whole JCPenney area is what they put the notice to demolish on. The owners of the mall appealed that with a notice, as their right is to do. They also, and then community development met with the owners and their representative. They did provide some engineering information that says that there are certain sections of the mall that are dry and they're stable and that should not be demolished. The building official and community development reviewed that information, also consulted with the city attorney in that, and determined that it could be reduced to just this section, basically from the main entrance to Ollie's, to maintain that demolition order. So that's gone out within the last week to them, and they have till June in order to demolish that section. So we're trying to help them move forward with this project. We get a lot of questions about it in the community, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can within the tools that are available to us to do that. So we're waiting for their action at this point. The Bixby property, as we all know, the hospital is down, which is good. I did speak to the developer today, actually. Probably about 6 more weeks to clean up that site from, debris and backfill. Then next steps will be utilities and site work. And they're hoping to start putting the first unit in sometime in July, obviously depending on how that site work and utility work transpires. So they'll hope to start building that first unit in July. Next page, public projects for the city. So Winter Street, so 133, 155, 205, and 213 North Winter, those are the Telegram properties. Asbestos abatement has taken place, and they've got a little bit left to do. I think just a couple weeks left on that. We do have the bid specs out for the demolition, and that's going out to bid for the demolition. And then 132 and 142 North Winter, so across the street. We've done asbestos abatement on 142. They'll be reviewing 132 now. They'll start disconnecting the utilities from those properties in preparation for demolition to take place this summer as well, maybe sooner this spring. And then the intent will be to turn that into a surface parking lot. So working with DPW to get that process taken care of and allowing, I think, the reconfigured area, when you look at what's going to be that total project, probably about 80 additional parking spaces in the downtown.
Does that remove U Park as well?
That will remove U Park as well, yep. And so we're going to reconfigure kind of the entrance and the exit because it's kind of funky right there with the dumpster and you've got to drive around things. So Matt's been working on what that reconfiguration looks like, maybe moving that electrical out there and then removing U Park and making that all the surface parking lot area there. And that's what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything that you may think of.
I just want to mention that Bixby Hospital or that property, I think the final presentation of the site plan will take place tomorrow night.
You're right, I
at
forgot
the
that, yep.
Planning Commission meeting.
Yep, thank you.
Just a couple questions with Main Street. As it was laid out with the original plan of that, there was supposed to be that full-time dedicated director within your new role. Does that still meet the requirements for Main Street to make sure we have that full-time staff member?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have plus with our event coordinator that's doing all of the events. So that falls under that umbrella as well. So completely in line with their expectations.
Any, you didn't mention farmer's market, any comments associated with that? I know that position's posted.
Yeah, we're looking for someone to come in and be the market manager this year. So if you know anybody, we'll gladly speak to them. We're hoping to get a few people in. I think we have a couple people that have applied or they're looking to apply, so.
There's, can you answer the argument of why are we as a city opening micro entrepreneurial opportunities at the park area when we have open storefronts downtown?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can speak from experience in this one. When you start a business, especially in our community, capital is always the most important. And capital is important in any business, right? But in our community, access to that capital is restricted sometimes. And people don't have the same advantages when it comes to opening a business. So through our entrepreneurial process, we're looking at people that would go through Launch Lenaway or have a business idea that want to grow. And how do we help them take that step by step and grow their business? So giving those micro retail shops will give them an opportunity to do customer discovery and build that capital. Our goal is to graduate them into some of the open spaces that we have in our downtown. And so giving them a smaller footprint, and if they're going to fail, they fail small. It's a big lift to fill inventory in a 1,200 square foot space. And so give them an opportunity to learn about their business, put what they want to in that storefront, and then grow from there is really what we're looking at.
Great, thank you. With the $15 million downtown development grant that we received, we've heard that over the last number of years that that's going to pick up the tab.
Correct.
So as those tabs start to run up, is there projected amounts as we begin to plan for the budgeting process in terms of overruns that are going to come out of the city coffers for covering any of those projects?
So I'll use the town square as an example. We've allocated $2 million from that fund for this. We've also received a donation of $1 million for that project. We've got a pending grant application for $1 million. So we're trying to mitigate those at every opportunity that we can. But in working with the professionals that we have doing the architects and doing the architecture and doing the construction documents, there's contingency in all of those. So there's no anticipation of any overruns. And if there is, that contingency will cover that. So nothing coming, no local tax dollars spent on these projects.
Okay. And that grant isn't in our city books when we get the updates. That's held through Lenawee Now?
That's correct.
Okay. And then lastly, just the mall. And, you know, I think that might have been, that was news to me when I was sitting in the Rotary presentation. So, you know, just, is there an avenue for communication? I asked Vince to put you on for tonight so that we all heard the conversation that the mall has a section being torn down, because before you said that in a public meeting as a commissioner, I didn't hear that. So how we can make sure that the information that's flowing out to the public maybe flows to us 10 seconds before or something like that. So we're aware that when you're saying the mall's being torn down, when none of us know that the mall's being torn down, we could answer those questions to constituents as they arise.
That's
Yeah,
a
and
great point for the administrator research, because that would be their job.
Right.
Share information from their department heads to us.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where that communication broke down. And obviously there was a communication breakdown. You know, I know that the former administrator knew about that, and I don't know where. I mean, it was his kind of guidance and directive that took that as both the administrator and the community development director. So.
Gotcha.
Jay, is downtown economic development is downtowns were kind of depleted and malls were built. You know, that we've seen change happening all over. I got to go visit Norfolk. I haven't been there in a few years, and like 26, but I saw where a mall was torn down and they redid all this stuff. It was really neat. Are we seeing any focus like nationally, statewide on economic development shifting to things like that, where malls are becoming ghost towns, or, you know, little strip malls are becoming ghost towns too? Is there any national or state movement to start like, we don't want to focus so much on downtown that we lose sight of that, you know, because I think that's what happened to downtowns a long time ago, is we lost sight of our downtowns because we were focusing so much on that. Is there any help to combine like that, the bigger picture now that we've?
Yeah, so there's not a national movement like there is for downtowns, right? Main streets are there. That is a national movement. But what we're seeing in the vacated malls is we're seeing them being repurposed. We're seeing housing go in. We're seeing them being built into communities as opposed to shopping centers. So Ann Arbor, Briarwood's a great example, right? They're putting, I don't know, 400 or 500 units up there with a grocery store, and you know, those plans. And I think the plan for our mall in the plan unit development, when you look at it, there's some housing plans in there. There's some other things in there that I think we can continue. If we can get somebody that really wants to do that project at the mall, I think that's the important thing. So if we can do that, obviously we can stay on top of it and work with them, and we'd like to see it in local control. So we can have a better relationship with the owners and do that. So that would be my number one priority. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other items before we move on to the regular agenda? May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Roberts with a second from Commissioner Banky and Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Banky,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry. Yes. Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes. Moving on to the consent agenda. May I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Castleberry with a second from Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.